I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition.
We often hear the familiar phrase, salespeople are born, not made. That notion has even been reinforced by recruiters who promote and use personality style assessments to find the right candidate for any number of roles, including sales. For the job seeker and the long-term employee, many would say, no matter what their style, I don't have the confidence to sell. But in today's world, there is a growing need for everyone to take on the role of salesperson and recruiter. The Great Resignation and understaffed companies are making it essential for everyone to think and act like salespeople. So if we can't always hire based on a personality style assessment score, how do we turn everyone into a salesperson? My next guest on the Business of Intuition has that answer. She believes that you can be a good salesperson if you have three basic things. Those are a passion for your service or product, knowledge of your service or product, and the ability to really listen. Mandi Graziano is an acclaimed sales coach who solves company sales problems quickly. Mandi is very well known for her one-on-one group coaching, and she has a proven track record for increasing sales and the speed of closing deals. She curates creative closing tactics, inspires clever ways of finding new business, teaches more effective time management, and educates the best ways to listen to the voice of the customer. She is your company's fun and creative secret weapon. She has 23 years of experience in leadership roles in sales and management, business and hospitality, and all of these give her a unique edge to help companies thrive. Most importantly, Mandi uses humor and fun and stories to motivate her teams and her companies to be better in what they do. She's also an Amazon acclaimed author of Sales Tales. Mandi Graziano on the Business of Intuition. So Mandi, great to have you on the Business of Intuition. And I would like to maybe start us off with a question to get this ball rolling. So I was talking to a client just yesterday who is in healthcare, and these particular people provide service to people at their home, right? And so that's their main job, is to do that. But they also have this secondary responsibility to, in a sense, sell people on the service. So you got a care provider and a sales responsibility all within the same person. And what I began to realize in talking to this person is that the style of a care provider is very different than the style of a person who's comfortable and adept and successful in sales. And my recommendation to him was, find your own salespeople. Don't have them be also caregivers, because those styles are very, very different. What's your take on that? Is there a certain style that is more successful in sales? And if I don't have that style, I shouldn't enter into sales? What's your thought?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on this, Dean. This is such a great question.
All right, let's go.
A couple things. A good salesperson is an educator and a listener. And so in that scenario, I don't necessarily think the care provider is a bad salesperson. I think that care provider needs to want to sell, right? They need to love their job. They need to really want to educate people on why this is important and why there's valuable. And if you can find someone that circles that space, that's a great salesperson. Now, and I talk about this with business owners all the time. Some people, they just don't like sales, and that's fine. That's totally fine. So that's a circumstance where if you don't like people, but you're a great care provider, hopefully you like people a little bit if you're a care provider. But if you don't like people, or if you just don't want to sell or you're uncomfortable with that, then find a salesperson, find a business development person, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think as entrepreneurs or as business owners or business leaders, we try and do so many things. We try to do too many things, and we realize we don't forgive ourselves or give ourselves enough grace to say, I don't like that. I'm not good at that. So I think if you are an educator and a good listener, you can be a great salesperson. Another example is I have a great friend who she has her master's in education. She was a high school counselor. She was a teacher, and she is now a salesperson for an educational company that they sell prep for ACTs and SATs and things like that. There is no better person for a parent to get on the phone with than her. She's got 3 kids. She comes up through the education system, and she doesn't feel like she's selling at all because she's really helping people solve a problem. So I think, you have to marry being the educator, being a listener, but you also, if you don't like sales, find somebody to do it for you.
So let me follow this one more step, and then we'll get on to something else. There are definitely style assessments out there. Predictive index, for example. Some of you out there who are listening to this will know what I'm talking about, the PI. And certain types of services that you can get from them would say, let's create the kind of PI score relative to the kind of job that person would be doing. So let's say I'm a salesperson, or let's say I'm in research and development. Let's say that I'm a teacher. Let's say that I'm a CEO. Each one has its own sort of typical successful type of assessment results. And then people literally go out and hire for that. They give people those particular PI assessments, and they say, we like you a lot, but your PI score may not necessarily match what we're looking for. Let's maybe consider you for something else. So that being said, in that this is a world that is out there, go back to your idea that if you're a good educator and a good listener, that you can still be a good salesperson. In some ways, those two stories I just gave you are counter to each other. Kind of help me understand a person who doesn't necessarily have a background and skill or a style that is necessarily seen as archetypically conducive for selling, how they can be successful in sales if they're a good listener, a good educator.
Okay, first of all, I love the word archetypical, so thank you for that. That's great.
Good Scrabble word.
Use it. No, but it's great. I love that word. So I think all of those tests and assessments are excellent and they have their place. But I also think right now it needs to be a little more robust, because the thing that can't be measured with those assessments is the power of passion. I think there's some secret sauce in there, and a great salesperson has passion for a product. Is a great salesperson but doesn't have passion for a product, they're just selling the wrong thing. So I think it needs to be robust in the hiring situation right now, or robust in the promotion of the internal promotion within companies. Definitely use the assessment, but give yourself a little margin for that on some of those unmeasurables. And I think passion for the product is an unmeasurable.
That's a really, really good point. I totally agree with you on that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily saying that I advocate for hiring people just on the basis of an assessment or a score that they get. Because I think that personally, my understanding is that the ultimate goal is agility in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So we have an assessment as well. And when we find out where a person ends up landing, I tell them, I don't care where you land. We all have a particular type of style preference, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
My question to you is, can you move in other directions, or are you stuck to your neighborhood? Can you behave? Can you connect? Can you pivot your style so that another person can receive your information because your style isn't grating on them?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And we do a lot of work on that. So it kind of aligns with what you're saying. It's okay. And I love the idea about passion being one of the secret sauces around great selling.
Yeah. I do want to say, though, as you're talking about that, it reminds me of an exercise recently I've been doing with my own book of clients. Is there is a lot of value in assessing the DNA of the perfect client, right? So I still think you should look at that, right? It's like there's that whole dollars to grief ratio, and what clients are worth at what clients aren't. There's no money in the world for a client that gives you a gut pain in the gut kind of thing. So I think especially now with this avalanche of business, we're busier than ever. there's value in doing an assessment on your book of business, your clients, your customers. Who are they? Who is that perfect customer? And what qualities do they possess? What are those 10 characteristics they possess? Then unleash your sales staff out on finding a whole bunch of those types of customers as well. So I think there's value in all sorts of ways to do the assessment, whether it's on hiring or whether it's on your customer base too.
Absolutely. And you can take the idea that a good salesperson not only has listening and educational skills and passion, but you could say, what's the passion of our potential client? What do they want deeply that if we can solve for that, we've got them? We can create a lasting, loyal relationship. I love that. Pivoting a little bit here, Mandi. So post-COVID, somewhat, a lot of us have now transferred a lot of our interactions to Zoom, WebEx, Teams, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems like these particular platforms of interaction, no matter what the health is of the world, is here to stay. There's a certain percentage of people who are going to be working from home, and companies are making policies around that. That is also somewhat, to some people, a barrier to creating relationships because we don't have the three-dimensionality. I can't see you the same way. If we were sitting together, there's technological barriers, there's the sound quality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do we build relationships in sales interactions virtually?
It's so easy. It is so easy. I think we have to remove the thought that technology separates us. Technology can bring us together if we use it to our advantage and we use it in a creative way. I'll give you an example. Last year, normally at the end of the year, you send out, gifts or cards or whatever it is you do for your customers during the holidays. But I didn't know where any of my customers were. I'm talking to them on their cell phone at home, and they're, some of them have their summer home. Some of them just outright moved. Some of them are digital nomads. So it wasn't like I was sending something to a corporate headquarters. So I wrote a holiday haiku and I put a little Christmas hat on and I recorded it on YouTube, and that was my holiday card for them. And it's such a simple little thing, right? But it was a long message. And I take it back. This wasn't, I did a haiku for somebody else. I wrote a poem, and the poem addressed like supply chain sucks, staffing is difficult, we've got labor shortages. And it was funny. And it's something that people remembered. So that was something where technology brought us together, right? I couldn't physically go, I couldn't go see them in their offices. I couldn't send something to their house. But that was something where technology made a difference. And it took me, 20 minutes to write. I think I did 2 or 3 takes on it. And it went such a long way. I heard back from so many customers, and I sent that to existing customers and customers that were dead to me, that I hadn't talked to, that ghosted me for a long time. And I heard back, I would see from like 80% of them. So that's an example of get creative. The digital piece now too, instead of sending an email, you have a great phone call with a customer. Follow up with a video. It doesn't have to be pretty. Record it on your phone. This whole thing of your phone is your greatest asset right now. Smartphone storytelling. Use your phone, the smartest thing you have in your pocket. So I'll record a video sometimes. Awesome talking to you. Here are 2 or 3 things I took from it. I'll follow up with you in 2 weeks. Send the video. So, there's so many things. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to make it perfect, there's programs like Loom out there, and within everybody's individual CRM, there's ways to record a video and send it. But I think the more creative you can get and the more personal you can make it, that's how you bridge the gap between making tech personal or impersonal. I think being creative and actually, using your face, using your personality. And now more than ever, I think before COVID, there was a fine line between, your professional self and your personal self. Yes. And I think now people want to see you. They want to know you. They want to hear what's going on in your life. And they are more open to creative tactics. And the thing is, you just have to try something. Some things may fail, some things may succeed, but you just have to try.
I love it. I love this idea about using your smartphone for a way to connect with people and the storytelling. I think that's fantastic. It's giving me some ideas myself. Yeah. So, sales process.
Yes.
You've got front end where you're developing relationships, you're qualifying the lead and so forth, or maybe it's somebody you've known for a long time. They're already in your book of business. but at some point we got to sit down and do a proposal, right? I'm doing one tomorrow, right? And it's going to be over Zoom. I would much rather do it if it was possible. I would probably find a way of flying out to meet this person. But is there a place and a time to say, technology is not the right time for this? We need to be face to face. And for example, like doing a proposal, like a high ticket, long-term potential relationship.
I mean, I think all sales steps can be in person or they can be using technology. It just depends on your bandwidth and your time and the value, the revenue attached to that customer. It's really up to you. Okay. I think a really good example is if you've lost a customer for reasons unbeknownst to you, you can sense the customer isn't sharing that with you. Get on an airplane and go see them and just say, hey, I'm bummed we're not working together. I'll be in the area. Can I take you to dinner? Can I take you to lunch? Can we do some sweat working? Can we go on a brisk walk? Whatever that is. Right. And I think when there's a general rub or there's a conflict that you can't get to the bottom of, that you really need to look that person in the eye or they need to look you in the eye kind of thing. Right. But I think most things can be solved both ways. It just depends on you and the customer in terms of your times and schedules and money.
Got it. So what are some of the big mistakes that salespeople make today?
Go to my TikTok page. I feel like I started this TikTok because I thought, well, this will be fun to do sales tip of the day. And then it ended up sort of being sales rants because I'm a buyer, right? I'm a sales coach, but in my other business, I'm a buyer. So I interact with salespeople all the time. But I think right now, response time, it sounds so silly. Response time, product knowledge, and then going in for the close too quick. Now, I'm a big fan of asking for the business, and so many people don't ask for the business. But I'm also not a big fan of being proposed to on the first date because those relationships don't really work out. So I think right now, salespeople are frenzied, and they're like, yeah, they got to get the proposal out. And then they're like, okay, can you book the business? It's like, well, hold on. There's a couple different steps here we've got to walk through. So response time, you would be shocked at your competitors' delay in responses. If you can get responses back quicker than your competitors, you will probably win.
That is so true. In our little company, we are celebrating our 30th year this summer.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of it. And we've had a wonderful run and we've got another 30 or 50 more to go. My message to my team is always like, we win business often and the hearts and minds of our clients just because we respond quickly. Yeah. So we tell people, you want to come on board and work with us, we'd love to have you, but you need to know that this is one of our principles is quick response time. I don't mean, get out of the shower and respond to an email. I just mean get back within a day and be on top of this. And what we're finding is we're spending so much time with our clients just trying to help them get back to us. But at least we are almost project managing this whole communication. But response time, I think, is huge.
Yeah, response time and product knowledge. So it's interesting. So many people are home now that weren't home before. And so there is a little bit of a learning curve of how to set up your office. What's in your physical, like your wing? I know I'm acting like a robot right now, but like what's in your wingspan? And if you can set up your office, your wingspan to touch a cheat sheet or, your phone, or like I'm looking at my wingspan. I've got a pen, a pad of paper. I've got a grid that shows me some square footages, just what's within your wingspan. Set yourself up for success so you can be faster on the phone. Because sometimes people ask you questions on the phone. You can't answer it because maybe you're a new salesperson. You don't have that product knowledge. Or maybe you're an old salesperson, but you're a little clunky and you forgot. All of that is okay. But set yourself up for speed when you have engagement with the customer. Because you work so hard to interact with them. And then you're there. And then you have to say, I'm not sure, I'll call you back, which is fine. That's a totally fine answer. It's better than a lie. But setting yourself up at home within the right wingspan and set yourself up for speed too.
Say something about backgrounds. There's so many different things I see. Like right now, I got a background that it's of a living room that we have up in Oregon, and we've got our corporate logo background. We got all this other stuff. What's your advice on some of the visuals of a virtual meeting in terms of this looks too personal or too professional? What's the right mix?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts on backgrounds.
All right.
So if I'm doing a new business meeting, a discovery call with a new customer, I always have my company logo up in the back because we
Got
don't
it.
know each other yet. And I want the customer to know that I am professional and this is my brand, right? Subsequent calls after that, it really just depends on who the customer is and what that relationship is. Like right now, we're doing a podcast, and normally I would have my book image up in the back, but it's the business of intuition. And I wanted you to get this authentic Mandi. So you've got my office, and I'll show you. You've got, like, I've got a picture I haven't hung up yet. Oh, there's my book in the back. You've got a chair behind me,
Yep.
So, in this circumstance, I wanted it to be more of an authentic experience. So I think you have to really just look at what that situation is. A lot of times when I'm doing a virtual speaking engagement, I will go on the website of the customer and I will make a color palette background. And Canva is great. I'll go and make a color palette. I'll have someone on my team and make a color palette background that matches that company background. I won't use their logo. I'll put my name and then my Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn on the background like that, but I'll use their color palette. So it feels like I'm with them. I'm one of them. I'm an extension of them. So it just depends on the circumstance, but don't take it lightly because a lot can be said about that background. And you can, Zoom has some great, you can even Google just Zoom background or Canva. Canva
You keep mentioning that. What is that again?
It's a design. It's canva.com. It's a design website.
Could you spell it?
Yeah. Canva.
Oh, Canva. Oh, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Canva.
You can make, my husband, for example, was working on a PowerPoint yesterday. And I was like, you are a dinosaur, man. Like, do this in Canva. It will take you half the time. It gives you way more creativity. And there's actual artists in Canva. So it looks a little more edgy as well. So I think there's just a lot of resources available that make your background cooler.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So, okay. So you brought up the word intuition. So let's talk about that for a second. I'm a salesperson. I've got a client that on paper looks great. It's our target market. We have the right understanding what their problem and opportunity is. We have the right product and the service to provide them. On paper, it looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
However, in meeting with the prospect, there's something that is rumbling in me that says this doesn't feel right. It's just, I don't know, I can't put any language to it, but I just have some sort of internal alarm bell go off. How do you help a person get through that when on one hand, intuitively, we shouldn't. Paper-wise, yes, we should.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts on this, but can I read you a quote from my mom about intuition? This is in my wingspan. It's literally up. I'm looking at it right now. It is up on my computer all the time. My mom wrote this many, many years ago. The paper's really faded, but this is what Kathy Kay says. Trust your gut. It is your internal GPS. It has no hidden agenda. It will lead you to where you are supposed to be. And I truly believe in that. I believe in that, especially in a business environment. Your gut is one of your greatest tools in your toolbox. I think a couple things like in that scenario where it's great on paper, but your gut's telling you otherwise, put some things in play that protect you if your gut is right. So still proceed with the business, but whether you put the terms of engagement into play, whether that is a document that says, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what it'll cost if you don't do that. Here's what it'll cost if I don't do that. Put a little more things in writing that you would normally do. And I know we all have rules of engagement or terms of engagement with, or contracts or whatever that is. Go just a little step further if your gut tells you it's wrong. But if your business can call for it and you just don't feel good about it, listen to that and walk away and find another customer, because that gut is going to keep coming back to you again and again. And I guarantee at the very end, you're going to say, I wish I would have listened to myself. It's the power of the pink flag. And I talk about this a little bit in the book of like, how many times do we ignore the pink flag? So much so that they turn into red flags. And when it's a red flag, it's an emergency. It's an abuse of time. It's awful, right? But if you just listen to the pink flags a little bit, either put some processes in place that protect you from making it a red flag or walk away from the business. But it's an exercise for life to pay attention to those pink flags.
I hear you. And I think you're very wise in that. And I think that that's one of the things that entrepreneurs, people who are starting off for the first time, they have to grapple with the fear of, I know it doesn't feel right, but we need the money, right?
Yeah.
You hear that. We say yes to everybody because we need the money. And that's sort of, I had to learn that a long time ago. I used to be that way. We're not that way anymore. We fire customers right now. We won't take them on if it isn't a fit. We talk about it as a team, and everybody has a chance to weigh in. What's your gut say about this? And if it doesn't feel right, then we take serious considerations to, letting our client know we have serious concerns, or we might even drop them. But it's hard for people when there's food to be put on the table. When you're early on in your career, you go, wait a minute, I can't say no.
And I think I totally hear you. And I did the same. I mean, all three businesses, at different ages and stages, I did the exact same thing. But I think the best thing of that is early on, right? Entrepreneur, you take all the business, but you learn the big lessons. And so I think there's a place for that, right? You take the business, you trip and fall, you skin your nose, you bleed a little bit, and then you learn the lesson. And then eventually you don't always take that kind of business. So I don't know if I would tell an entrepreneur very early on, qualify the business so deeply that you turn people down. I actually might say, take everything you can, because you're going to learn a lot of lessons from this. And you're going to give yourself a master class in business by doing that. You just don't want to do that the entire time, right? You just want to make sure that's just the beginning stages.
Yes, definitely. And in some interesting way, when you become less available and you focus on your passion to what your point is, and intuitively this is the right relationship to be involved with, your business actually grows. I find ours
exponentially.
Exponentially, right? Yep. And it's a lot more fun dealing with people that you're excited about the prospect of seeing them versus like, oh, geez, it's that guy or that gal.
Or that phone rings. And your guts drop. The phone rings and you're like, oh, I can't talk to Stephen one more time.
Not that person.
Yeah.
Well, Mandi, got a lot of great tips here. So tell us about your book. Tell us about your ways that you provide people your service. I think you're just delightful. I think you're right on what you're about. How can people who are listening to this learn more about you and about what you're doing?
Thanks, Dean. I think you're delightful too, with a great vocabulary. My book is called Sales Tales, The Hustle, Humor, and Lessons from a Life in Sales. It's a funny business book. I carried around journals my whole life. I've been writing in them since I was a little girl. And when I started in the workplace back in the mid-90s, I took those blank journals to my office place with me, and I wrote down stories about employees, employers, customers, good bosses, bad bosses, all the things. And this book is a culmination of 25 years in business about the funny stories, but also the life lessons. So it actually goes through the sales process start to finish in the order of a standard sale. So it's prospecting, networking, building relationships, value, establishing value, closing business, time management, and then COVID. The book was done in 2019, but then I didn't publish. I met my publisher in 2021 because 2020 gave me the disaster selling chapter, how to run your business through a crisis. So,
good.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, you just get a giggle out of it. But best case scenario, you'll get some nuggets. You don't have to read it in order. You can open it up and there are stories. It's stories upon stories that I've told. And then I interviewed a bunch of people that I have worked with in different industries, and I've told their stories as well. So that came out in October, the physical book, and the audio book just came out in April. And I narrate it as well. So that was a fun experience. And then if they want to work with me or get in touch with me, you can go to mandigraziano.com, Mandi with an I, Graziano with a Z. And then I'm available on all the socials, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, all the things. Just track me down and we can work together.
Sounds great. Well, keep up the good work. And I really hope our paths cross sometime in the future.
Me too. Thanks for the time today. This is awesome.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.